At around 1 a.m. on Christmas Day 1945, a house in Fayetteville, West Virginia, caught fire. 9 of the 10 children were inside, and 4 made it out. The other 5 were never seen again. Authorities ruled the children dead, but their parents didn't believe that. And for the next 40 years, they searched for children the world had already declared dead. George Sodder was born in Italy and migrated to the US at age 13. He never spoke about why he left, but by the 1940s, he owned a successful trucking company in Fayetteville, West Virginia. He and his wife Jenny, also an Italian immigrant, had 10 children. George was outspoken, especially about politics. He criticized Mussolini publicly, even in front of other Italian Americans who still supported the Italian leader. That wasn't a small thing in a town with a close-knit Italian immigrant community. Tensions built over time. Then came a series of warnings. A stranger came to their house in late 1945, offering life insurance. George declined. The man told him, "Your house is going to go up in smoke, and your children are going to be destroyed because of the dirty remarks you've been making about Mussolini." Around the same time, another man, reportedly inspecting wiring for the power company, pointed to the fuse box in George's house and said, "This will cause a fire someday." But George had recently had the wiring approved by the same company. One of the Sodder's sons also noticed something strange. A man parked along Route 21, watching the younger children as they came home from school. The car showed up more than once. All of this seemed strange at the time. Later, it would seem more than that. It was Christmas Eve. The older sons had gone to bed. The younger children, Maurice, 14 years old, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, Jenny Jr., 8, and Betty, 5, asked to stay up late, playing with toys from their older sister Marion. Jenny agreed under one condition. They had to turn off the lights and lock the doors before bed. At around 12:30 a.m., the house phone rang. Jenny answered. It was a woman asking for someone she didn't know. There was laughter and clinking glasses in the background. Jenny said she had the wrong number and hung up. She noticed that the lights were still on, the curtains open, the doors unlocked. The children's shoes were still by the fireplace. She turned everything off and went back to bed. A few minutes later, she heard a loud noise on the roof, like something hitting it, then a rolling sound, then smoke. She woke George. They began evacuating the house. 4 children escaped. 5 were still inside. George smashed a window to re-enter, but the staircase was already engulfed in flames. He ran outside to grab the family ladder, but it was missing. He tried to start his coal truck to drive to the second floor window. Both trucks, which had worked earlier that day, wouldn't start. Meanwhile, the fire spread rapidly, fueled by wood framing and coal heating. The phone line inside the house was dead. Neighbors ran to call the fire department, but the operator didn't respond. Another neighbor drove to town to alert Fire Chief F.J. Morris directly. Firefighters didn't arrive until 8 a.m., almost 7 hours after the fire had started. By then, the house was completely gone. What remained of the house was mostly ash and foundation. No bones were found, no teeth, no human tissue. Just melted appliances and mattress springs. Despite that, the fire department concluded that the 5 missing children had died in the fire. The coroner's office issued death certificates 5 days later. But Jenny Sodder didn't believe it. She visited a local crematorium and learned that human bones don't completely incinerate, even at temperatures much higher than the house fire. To test it herself, she burnt chicken bones, beef bones, and animal carcasses on the stove. Bones remained every single time. Fire Chief Morris later claimed he had found a human organ, a heart, in the ashes. He placed it in a dynamite box and buried it secretly. When pressed, he agreed to dig it up. A local pathologist examined it. It was beef liver. It had never been exposed to fire. There's no clear explanation as to why Morris faked that discovery. Another issue. The phone line hadn't been burnt. It was cut from about 14 feet up the utility pole by someone climbing it or using a tool. It wasn't part of the fire. The police questioned a man stealing mechanical parts from Sodder Yard the night before the fire. He admitted to the theft and cutting the phone line, but claimed he thought it was a power line. Police accepted the explanation and released him. 4 years later, George hired a Washington, D.C. pathologist to lead a new excavation of the fire site. They found something this time, a few vertebrae. The bones were sent to the Smithsonian Institution. The report concluded that the vertebrae came from a person aged 16 to 22. The oldest missing Sodder child, Maurice, was 14. The bones had not been exposed to fire. There were no signs of charring, cracking, or heat-related damage. The report stated that the bones had likely never been part of a fire at all. There was no explanation for how they got into the ash. In the months after the fire, tips began to surface. A bus driver claimed to have seen balls of fire thrown into Sodder roof that night. Another witness said that she saw the children peering out of a car window during the fire. A woman working at a tourist shop in Charleston, 50 miles west, claimed she served breakfast to 5 children and 4 adults the next morning. She said the group left quickly and the adults refused to let the children speak. In 1952, the Sodders printed flyers and put up a large billboard along Route 16. It featured photos of the children, a timeline of the fire, and a reward. Sightings continued for years in St. Louis, in Florida, Oklahoma, and even Texas, but none were verified. In 1968, 23 years after the fire, the Sodders received a letter in the mail. It was postmarked from Central City, Kentucky, with no return address. Inside was a photo of a young man in his 20s or 30s. On the back, handwritten in block letters, Louis Sodder, I love my brother Frankie. Lil Boys, A90132 or 35. The man in the photo resembled Louis, one of the missing Sodder children, but older. The family thought it could be him. They hired a private investigator and sent him to Central City. He left and was never heard from again. George and Jenny placed the photo on the billboard. It remained there for decades. Some suggested that the children had been taken back to Italy. Others believed they were placed in adoptive homes. Some even suspected organized crime. Nothing was confirmed. George Sauder died in 1969. Jenny wore black every day and lived for another 20 years, dying in 1989. She kept the billboard up and the search alive. But after her death, the mystery faded from the headlines. The billboard was taken down in the 1990s. Today, only one of the original Sauder children survives. No death certificates have been collected. The 5 children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny Jr., and Betty, are still listed as dead by fire. But there are no remains. And there never was a second-floor staircase, only a fire, and a silence that's lasted nearly 80 years.